There he is.
Brian,
Daniel.
what's up?
How you doing, man?
Good.
Thanks for chatting with us here on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This series is blowing up,
I go back and forth. Like all these other people are doing it now, and part of me is like really resentful that like they're like doing it and they're like getting great people, and part of me is like, not that you're not a great person. That sort of came across bad. And then part of me is like, well, imitation is the most sincere form of flattery. So
yeah.
No,
but I think it's a great way to discover other chocolatiers. I think we talked just a couple of days ago, and I told you how you had some people in from Manitoulin Island who, even though it's in Ontario, I had no idea they even make chocolates there. So, and never mind chocolatiers, but also chocolate makers. So.
Cool. There's some other Ontario people here already too. I see some other people with the same last name as you that are already on here. But Rodney's there, so Rodney.
Yeah.
So I think it's the first time.
Is there too now, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the only time Rodney's ever tuned in. So you got like Rodney's props that he like decided to join us today.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I better not screw this up then if Rodney is watching. Yeah.
Well, whatever. Hey, so we haven't talked in a while. Like COVID, right? I think
I mean, what a year it's been. I remember last year in the we shut things down in March. Had no idea what was going on. We were, I thought, we're going to shut this all down. It's probably just going to last 4 weeks and so on. We can just, close it down. And then my wife was, let's keep the website running. We lay everybody off, but you and me, we can just deal with the online orders and so on. And we always had a little bit of sales, and it was always very. I think very solid, our web platform, and then all of a sudden all the orders came in online, and we did pretty well. We called people back right away, and so we did okay in the first summer. We managed pretty well, and then going forward into the fall, then our big season. Obviously, we're like, we lucked out in the summer with the sales, but Christmas, how are you going to make up Christmas only online? And it was a gong show. There's just so much. If you're used to a retail store, and then all of a sudden you do everything online, it's a totally different ballgame. There's just so much more, going back and forth with the customers. And so on, but we learned a lot as well. Like one of the things that we learned from these online sales is, unlike in a retail setting, people come in, and a lot of times in a small shop like ours, there's a certain customization that people ask for, and that you can provide, more or less easily, and that falls away completely online, because if the product that you see online, that's the product you get. There is no back and forth. Can we customize this? So that was actually really refreshing to see, and so that was one of the lessons that we learned. Yeah.
So let's rewind a little bit, because I kind of know a little bit about you, but I bet a bunch of people here don't. Like, you're fourth generation?
How about sixth?
Sixth generation?
Yeah, but hold on. So
that's older than North America. That goes farther back than like the Pilgrims on the Mayflower.
Actually, it goes further back than chocolate itself. So no, I'm from Germany. My father is in Ottawa. He has a chocolate shop as well. My sister also is Stubbe chocolates in Ottawa, and my father is the one that brought the business over from Germany in the 80s, in the late 80s. And I was still in Germany doing my training as a pastry chef and so on. And then eventually I was like, oh, you know what, let's just check out what Daddy is up to. And I came to Canada, and more or less, just stayed, So my dad was... You do
have a visa now, right? You're not just like an illegal immigrant in Canada.
I got approval.
Okay, just making sure. I didn't want to I don't want to get you in trouble.
No, but you know, when I immigrated, getting a permanent residency here in Canada was actually fairly easy still. You got a lot of different points for our profession as a pastry chef. Then you got other, you know, was kind of like a family reunion. So there was a lot of, it was fairly easy. And my dad was actually the one that kind of pushed me to right away apply for the permanent residency as opposed to just a working visa. And I'm glad I did because, yeah, you know, you kind of fall in love with the country and it's a great place. Yeah.
But you're in Toronto.
Yeah, you know, I did work with my father a couple of years, and you know, after 2 years, he's like, "So what are you gonna do?" And I was, how old was I? Like 24 years old, 24. And I'm like, I don't know. And he's like, "You want to open your own chocolate shop?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that." Yeah, and so we at the time, my dad being in Ottawa, we knew we wanted a larger market, so we decided let's go either Montreal or Toronto. And at that time there was a Quebec, Quebec was going through a referendum in regards to separating from Canada, and we're like, okay, we'll go to Toronto. And I remember when I first came to Toronto, because I had never been to Toronto. You know, I was fairly new to Canada still. My English wasn't all that good, and coming from a small town in Germany, moving to Ottawa, oh, I thought that was like, Ottawa was a big deal, big city. And then I came to Toronto, and I'm like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? You know, but I've been here now, Toronto, 25 years, and I couldn't see myself anywhere else. What a great city it is, you know. Yeah.
But the market, I mean, the market in Toronto has changed a lot, chocolate-wise. I mean, there weren't a lot of people doing chocolate in the 90s in Toronto, right?
Or anywhere else for that matter.
Well,
know,
yeah,
so,
but I mean, like, really, I mean, I think you were one of the early people that sort of like set out to make Toronto a bit of a chocolate destination, right? I mean, that ultimately was the result.
yeah, you know, yeah, you know, I always, back then, I really prided myself to know all the different chocolatiers, you know, all the different shops that are around town and so on. And I would visit them at least annually just to see, because it was such a small market, to get new ideas and so on before the internet was sometimes a struggle. You know, you got your hands on like magazines from France or from Germany in my case, and you know, you cherish them because there were like some kind of tricks in there. And it wasn't, that was way before the internet, way before Instagram. And it was a very selected group. And mind you, the reason being also is there wasn't really all that much demand for chocolate. You know, when I opened up the shop, people came in and they wanted to know, do you have Belgian or Swiss chocolate? That was it. And in the first years, we didn't even offer bittersweet chocolate. We had milk, dark and white. And the dark chocolate was a semi-sweet chocolate. So only maybe, I don't know, 15 years ago, you know, that's when the bittersweets came in. And then all of a sudden you had these people asking, oh, do you have chocolate from Tanzania? I hear it's really good. And then so we started offering that as well. And mind you, as a chocolatier, you always knew kind of where your chocolate was from, but the customer just wanted to know, is it Belgium, French, is it Swiss chocolate? They weren't interested in where the beans are from. Or maybe they actually didn't know that there is this disconnect in our industry.
Yeah, I don't think, I think, thinking about my own sort of winding through chocolate, I think people didn't care. Like it wasn't even on their radar.
Uh-huh.
And you're right, like if you wanted a premium milk chocolate, it came from Switzerland. And if you wanted a premium dark chocolate, it came from Belgium.
Yeah.
And or traditional confectioners in North America were using American chocolate, right? And that was reserved for not premium chocolate, because premium chocolate wasn't a word yet, right? Like very few people were using premium chocolate in North America
Yeah.
15, 20 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so like I said, you know, in Toronto there was a handful of chocolatiers that were around, and there was just no demand for it. You know, so yeah. But having said that, I really think that where it all changed all of a sudden was with people like you know, even somebody like Martha Stewart, you know, who brought this awareness about food and lifestyle, and all of a sudden people were spending $20 on olive oil. Nobody did that before. You bought olive oil and it would cost you like $3, you know. So and with these, you know, people being more food savvy, learning new recipes, and then especially also I think places like Toronto, where there's a multitude of different cultures, people were getting more adventurous and trying out new things. And then all of a sudden, you know, there comes the knowledge about, hey, you know what? Chocolate is actually doesn't come from France or doesn't come from Belgium. The beans actually come from countries around the equator.
Right.
So how are the chocolates, you know, from those countries? Or can you give me chocolates that are maybe processed in France or Belgium, but only made with particular beans? Yeah.
Yeah, I read a book probably 10, 15 years ago that kind of talked about that evolution of food. And, you know, so that guy picked up his cup of coffee and his donut on the way to work in the early 80s, for example. And it had been like that since the 50s, right? And suddenly in like the mid 90s, that same guy was picking up a latte and a croissant.
Yeah.
Right? And like not really realizing that there'd been a change, right? And not really paying attention to the fact that that donut and that coffee was $1.50, and now a croissant and a latte was $8, $6. And I think chocolate rode that, like you're saying, Martha Stewart, Jacques Torres, like people that were in the United States, people that were on public television and initially got us to sort of like try new things. And once we started to try new things, then we wanted to embrace food culture, right? We wanted to go to that place and try something new. And I think that's the timeline that I think it sounds like you were opening in Toronto at a time that we were changing. And I mean, Toronto is obviously a very metropolitan city with people from all over the world, which had to have helped with that, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, our first location was just around the corner from the German consulate, no less, and you did bring in a lot of people. Experience or a different cultural experience and so on, you know. So yeah, absolutely. You know, that definitely helped. That definitely helped.
Yeah, I mean, it was that too. I mean, your friend went to Europe, right? And they brought back that box of chocolate from the Zurich airport.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that. By the way, the Zurich, the Lindt store at the Zurich airport sells more chocolate than anybody else in the world. Just so you know.
Yeah, I believe that.
And also to that end, the capital consumption of Switzerland per chocolate consumers is like 6 times the amount of anywhere else in the world, except for 85% of it is exported. It ends up getting bought and then leaves the country when somebody goes home back to France or the United States. Dumb little facts. But anyway, but obviously, I mean, pastry and chocolate are in your blood. I mean, we were joking about 6 generations, but I mean, that you were groomed to do pastry.
Oh yeah, but you know, obviously my family. So my we can trace the Stubbe name back to kitchens since 1845, And of course, it started out in not with chocolate necessarily right away, but sweets and bread, mostly bread, you know. And I remember growing up, I was like 2, 3 years old, and my playpen was right in the middle of our kitchen, you know, and I had my grandfather watching over me, and my dad was there, and then, you know, all the chefs were running around, and I was like right in the middle of it, you know. So yeah, I mean, what an experience to have, you know. Like, looking back at it, I remember thinking that, well, you know, doesn't everybody have that, you know, just the chocolates within arm's reach everywhere, you know. So,
Yeah, my daughter doesn't understand that other people don't have a 25-pound case of chocolate on their shelf in the
exactly.
kitchen. Like, she
Yeah.
just doesn't get it. Like, she doesn't
Yeah.
understand. Like, what do you mean everybody doesn't just have chocolate whenever they want chocolate, right?
Yeah, we're pretty lucky that way.
Yeah, I mean, but did you ever think about going a different direction? Or
Oh
was
yeah, totally. Oh yeah, of course. So, you know, I was really bad in school, didn't have the grades that I needed, and you know, I ended up having to look for something to do, and I thought, you know what, why don't I just start an apprenticeship in pastry, just so that maybe after that time I can kind of figure out what I wanted to do, you know. So, and I guess it's fairly common in Germany, if you can't get into, let's say, in a university, you're on a waiting list and so on, people decide to do, let's say, learn a trade or do something else. And so that's what it was for me. And I wasn't really picky, anything. I just thought, you know what, with this pastry, I can find myself in there fairly at a local bakery, very much like where I grew up, and the Café Maya. And I got the job, and I signed up for this 3-year-long apprenticeship. And I remember going, actually on my first day, showing up and then going through the kitchen, and then the change room was in the basement, and I put my check pants on, because you're obviously wearing all uniform and like everything's really proper. And I come back upstairs, and I felt like right at home. I felt like, you know what, I know this stuff. This feels like I was right away comfortable, you know. And so I finished my apprenticeship there. I worked in different hotels and so on in Germany. And then when I came here, I joined my father, and I think I came in the fall, and you know how chocolate is, it's very seasonal. So what we had done is, or what my father did, is we worked together for the first season, which usually, our season ends usually so around May. You know, right after Easter, we have a little bit of Mother's Day sales, Father's Day sales, and so on. And then my father said, "Hey, what are you going to do for the summer? You know, I won't have any work for you." You know, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." So he got me a job at the Celtic Lodge in Cape Breton, this fantastic resort that is still owned by the government of Nova Scotia, the province. And at the time, I mean, this is now over 20 years ago, it was run by this French chef who ran it for quite a while already, and who brought all the chefs over. Because it was a seasonal hotel, it would only open from May to October. And so all the chefs were brought in. They were a mix of locals, but all the sous chefs and the head of garde manger and so on, the pastry chef, they all came over from France. So I joined those guys as a junior, and my English wasn't really good, so I would go there. There was, of course, nobody from Germany there, and I had headaches at night going to bed, because I was still translating everything into German, and it was a nightmare. But I had a blast. I had such a good time. Yeah, and then when I came back to Ottawa, my dad and I, we worked another season together, and then after that, we kind of decided, you know what, let's try to open a shop in Toronto. Yeah.
How come your dad came over? Like, what was that? Why did your dad come to Ottawa in the first place?
Yeah, so my dad, he had been to Canada a few times already as a traveler, as a visitor, and he really enjoyed Canada. And at the time already, and now even more so than back then, running a small business in Germany is fairly difficult. Here in Canada, you have a lot more freedoms to do really what you want to do. Especially in our industry, because it was fairly new. Where in Germany, maybe with the same skills, you have to run your business a certain way to attract enough clientele to make a living. So that includes, you also have to offer them your breads and your pastries and so on. Where I think my father really wanted to get away from that all and focus more on the fine pastry and then mostly chocolate. Yeah. So having said that, so I don't consider myself necessarily a chocolatier per se. I'm a German pastry chef, so specialized in chocolate. So that's why we still offer cakes, we still offer cookies, and so on in our shop. But everything focused on with chocolate as a main ingredient.
So I have some questions I ask everybody, but this is my new question when like people talk about that they can learn the skill from their parent. Like what's that one thing your dad gave you in the kitchen that you still use every day? Like what's that one, like is it a recipe? Is it a technique? Is it just a work ethic? Like what did your dad give you about the kitchen that you still use?
So I think, one of the biggest things that I learned was like just this structure of coming to work and doing the job. This, as you mentioned, this work ethic, just really, yeah, I guess that's what it is. So I would have a really hard time now, let's say doing an office job and then working from home, because I take a lot of solace in actually going to work and then also when I go home, leaving it behind so that when I come back the next day, I'm all fresh again, And having said that, when you come to my shop, and I hear this from my customers as well, there is a very, they tell me it's warm and inviting and so on. And it is because I spend so much time here as a small business owner, you do put in the hours. So you want to create a space for yourself that is, that you want to be at, that you want to be in, and I think I have this from my dad, that he also has a space where he wants to be all the time, Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean it does. I mean I think that
and it goes beyond branding or creating an image. It is just being comfortable in your space,
Well, if you're going to be there a lot, right? I mean, you're there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
you're there 60 hours a week, probably would be my
totally.
bet. Knowing you, and knowing how hard you work. I mean, you're there. You're there a lot.
No. I've
Not
never been known
anymore.
to do 60-hour weeks.
But you used to.
Yeah. Yes, but so because I've done this so long now. We have I have really awesome staff, and so our time is really time to take off is in the summertime, and I do. So we really go on a summer break. In the summertime I come in at 11 and I leave at 4 or 3, and I don't show up on the weekends, and it runs by itself. But having said that, I do that because as it comes to November, December, and then January, February with Valentine's Day and then Easter, it demands everything of you. You really put in those hours, and you need to be there, and you need to be focused, and you need to be there's just so much going on, and then having said that, I see you start this out as a master of your profession, thinking, oh, you want to show people something of your skill that you think they want to buy. That's why you start a business like this. You think you have something that nobody else has, and I'm going to offer this to my clients. And what ends up happening now, though, is that after all these years, you become more a jack of all trades, because you need to, as a small business, you need to have so many different skills. So making the chocolates is not actually enough.
Right. Right. You're probably an expert on packaging and shipping and accounting
and changing light bulbs, HVAC.
You know what's really cool? Like confectioners, pastry, whatever. I think we don't necessarily start out handy, but we're innovative and creative, and we have to find ways to make things work.
Yeah.
Right. Whether that's, hey, it's too hot in the room to pan today, but I still have to pan. I better figure it out. Right. To whatever it takes. Right. Because otherwise we're not going to get it done. And if we don't get it done, then we don't have something to sell. And if we don't have something to sell, then we're in big trouble.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
we are like line chefs in a burger joint. You just have to figure it out. You know.
Right. And I think it's funny that I see people that are new to the industry and they want answers, right? They want to know 32 degrees Celsius. That's what they want to know. They don't want to know, well, 28 to 32.
Yeah.
It depends on whether it's raining.
Yeah.
And it depends on whether you're like using this chocolate today, but that chocolate's older and you need to be aware. You know what I mean? Like they want that straight answer. And as they grow in the industry, they change, right? They become more like, okay, I'll take that answer, right?
Yeah, and so one thing that that I always look out for when we hire new staff, a lot of times when people are eager and fast, working fast, maybe they come from a different, maybe they did work as a line chef, or whatever. Sometimes it takes actually a while for them to actually slow down so that you work at the pace of the chocolate. So the chocolate has a certain rhythm and a certain pace, which is dependent, of course, on your humidity and your room temperature and all this stuff. And it is the skilled chocolatier with lots of experience that knows how to work at the pace of the chocolate. If you try to force it, or it usually doesn't work out. So that's a big skill. That's a big skill, and that is not in textbooks. No.
Yeah, I tell people that it took me a long time to get patient in the chocolate kitchen. Like everything in my life is right now. Like I want that now. I want it done now.
Yeah.
Get it on the table. And I think I come from a hot food background too. Yeah. And it was all about speed all the time. Yeah. And, get the plate out. We chef, where's my fish? Yeah. Get me my fish now or you're a dead man, right? Yeah. And now it's like, okay, that needs, okay, so here, I'll come over here. So I've got panned items in here, right? And as much as I want to polish those this afternoon when we're done this call, that's not an option, right? I could do it. It'll take me twice as long and they won't look very pretty. But if I wait until tomorrow or Monday, they'll be great and it'll take me an hour.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's the lesson that sometimes, like that, you're right, that Comey right out of school thinks they gotta, let's go. And that's not always the answer in the chocolate kitchen. Sometimes it's slow down.
Yeah, it's not. And then you also get the you also learn how to structure your work accordingly, so that if you temper your chocolate, well, unless you have a Salmi that does it for you, you can do something on the side. You know, you don't necessarily need to stand there and stir the pot constantly. You stir it once in a while, and then you do something else, and then you come back to it, and then you
Right,
look
but
after
even with it, but even with the sell-me, that's a good rule, right? There's this like, you know what? At some point at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, after working on that thing for 6 hours, maybe turn it off and go
Take a
wrap
breath.
something.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. You know, for sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the favorite thing in your case right now that you make?
For me to eat,
Yes.
to make,
Either, both. What do you like to make and what do you like to eat out of the case right now that's in the case?
you know, so obviously, yeah. I mean,
Don't say marzipan. Don't say marzipan.
no. You know what? To be honest, I like our Florentines. You know, I think they're fantastic. And there's such a German thing too. You know, you don't really find it the way we do it elsewhere. And you know, whenever there are some flying around, bomb, they go right in. You know, so
Sliced
absolutely.
almonds.
But yeah, so caramel, sliced almonds. We have orange peel in them as well. And yeah, all in the caramel with chocolate on the bottom. You know, so it's a great snack, and it's yummy. But having said that, so I actually make an effort to actually go out and try other chocolatiers out, just so to see what other people are doing, you know. So we always have chocolate on the go. We have like this little banister, and we put some chocolate bars on there from local people or from all over the world, and then our chefs just take a break and try it out, you know, and then maybe later on or a couple of days down the road, we're like, you know, we pick it apart, what we like about it, and so on, you know. So yeah, but having said that, what I like to make, I really like making actually cakes, you know. So, and I don't necessarily mean I really like making just sponge cakes. You know, so yeah, I don't know. There's something about it. So when you know, when I look at the production list and it's getting low, I always make sure that's the item that I picked that I got to make. You know, so yeah.
Yeah, there's something about like I make like 2 cakes a year now. I make like I make my daughter's birthday cake.
Yeah.
Right, and like one other cake, but there's something about, for me, like a separated egg sponge.
Yeah.
Right, about that whole concept of that meringue has to be right.
Yeah, totally.
Right? And
absolutely.
that yolk sugar thing has to be right.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you fold it in, and you make a chocolate one, and all of a sudden it goes like this.
So early on in my career, like I worked for the Ritz-Carlton company, I worked for this French chef, and Laurent was everything that the stereotypical French chef was.
Yeah.
Right. And I go to make this like chocolate sponge, and the chocolate's too cold. It goes in, it chips up, right? And he comes up to me, he's like, you know, Brian, if I'd wanted a chocolate chip sponge, I would have put it on the prep list. And it's just like, oui, chef, you know, as I sort of slink away. But the other thing I love to make that I only make like twice a year, pastry cream.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah.
That moment that mixture becomes pastry cream, right? Yeah. And you can see it, right? Like as you're doing this number, and then all of a sudden, it's pastry cream. And then
you don't have a machine for that?
No, but what's the fun of that? Like I make this much at a time. I make, you know, like a quart, like a liter. But more importantly, if you wait too long, then it's scrambled eggs.
Yeah, that's
right.
Yeah,
like it goes from like not right to pastry cream to scrambled eggs in about 90 seconds.
Yeah.
it's just, that's like the one thing that I still get excited about in the pastry
Yeah.
kitchen.
Do you know, I tell you the least thing I'd like to do. Sponge toffee.
I can't make it. I've tried it once.
It's,
My assistant makes it here.
you know what? I make this, and it's a mystery to me how this happens, and I cannot figure out what I'm doing right or what I'm doing wrong. I just wish somebody would explain that to me. And believe me, I've read so many like recipes and tried so many different things, but there's just something about it.
Yeah, so just so everybody else knows, in Buffalo, that's called sponge candy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You call it sponge toffee.
Yeah.
On the East Coast of the United States, it's called seafoam.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I worked at a place that we used to make it in like a metal box. It was like a liter or a meter by a meter. Right. And the guys that made it would be like checking the weather report for a week and be like, we're going to do it Tuesday. We're going to do it on Tuesday. Everybody be ready.
Yeah.
And so they would make it for like 8 hours, and then we had to cut it and enrobe it before Wednesday. Right.
Yeah.
So they'd be in at like 3 a.m, and then we'd be cutting and enrobe. It was crazy. And then we wouldn't make it again for like 6 weeks. They're like, okay, we're good. We can't make it until the temperature and the humidity all change.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I totally hear you. I go like, okay, tomorrow should be okay. First thing tomorrow morning, before anybody turns on any machines or anything, I want to be there. I want to cook that sponge toffee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things you can't make a small batch of. Because if you make a small batch of it, first of all, you lose 20%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like 20% goes in the trash no matter what.
The saving grace is that the stuff is so cheap to make, it's just sugar and that's it, so.
Yeah. Some glucose.
Yeah, exactly.
Corn syrup. Sorry. Probably corn syrup, right? So obviously the last year and a half's been challenging, right? And I'm hesitantly optimistic about the world and what's happening, and at least in Canada, it's getting better, I hope. What's next for you guys? I mean, what's next on the what are you going to conquer next?
Yeah, so as we're still in this pandemic, and even though it looks like things are getting back to normal, we have people coming into the shop and so on. Obviously, everybody wears a mask and so on. The challenges are changing, So I remember being here last year, and last year the challenge for us was getting packaging, supply chain. We ran out of ribbons, bags, boxes, all that stuff. That was a real big challenge for us. Thankfully, that's kind of like been all taken care of. We kind of figured things out, and we already have now placed orders for expecting to come in January, so after Christmas already. And I think this year, one of the big challenges for us will be to, staffing. So are we going to be able to find enough people to work for us? We still have subsidies here in Canada, and a lot of the universities are slowly opening up, but let's say students are not necessarily back in dorms or on campus. So there's everybody's looking for workers, people to join their team. Yeah, that's going to be a big challenge.
Yeah, I think it's definitely true in the States too, right? I mean, I think subsidies, unemployment insurance is a piece of that, but I think people's expectations and what they want to do has changed too, right? I mean, it's not just a financial conversation. I mean,
no, that's true.
I think so.
So last year, for example, I had one of our team members leave, and she enrolled in teachers college. So people decide to do something different, and people did get retrained, and they're doing something else. Thankfully, here in Toronto, we have we have 3 great colleges. We have our George Brown College, Centennial College, and Humber College, who have great um, hospitality programs and also pastry and chocolate programs. So there's a lot of new young chefs graduating and looking for work. So but front of house is an issue and always so never mind making the chocolate. That's the easy part.
Right, which back to that being that small business owner, right? Like you trained to make chocolate and pastry. You didn't train to conduct a job interview to get the right customer service person to take care of the customer the way you want them taken care of, right?
Yeah, it's a learning curve. Huh?
So that raises the question. So you're sixth generation? Is the seventh generation on board? Are they coming in to take over at some point?
She is really heavy into babysitting right now. She's 13. And my daughter Georgia, and she does help out once in a while. But I think this year, for the first time, is going to be that she's going to actually has to get her hands wet and really, work.
Learn to pipe. You got the piping bag in her hand, and she's like figuring that out.
Yeah, absolutely. And then dip cookies and whatnot.
Yeah, my 12-year-old, so they're about the same age.
Oh yeah, same age. Yeah.
Still like chocolate is every year we do Christmas together.
Yeah.
So we've done chocolate covered cookies. We've done bark. I think we might move on to molded bonbons this year. I think 12's old enough to start controlling a piping bag. I'm hoping.
Oh yeah, no way. Oh, that's great. Yeah, that's good.
We'll see how it goes. I'll let you know in January how it worked out. Whether we are able to whether the Christmas list has to get much smaller this year than usual. Usually it's easy.
Yeah.
It's sprinkling nuts on top of chocolate bark. We can handle that. It's, scraping and shaking. That's a whole other story.
Yeah. No, but it's fun. It's I get such a kick out of it. When we do work together, and then it's just a progression. The continuation. It's great. But just like with my parents, I never felt like I had to take over the business or so on. So for me, it all became very organic. And that's exactly what I want for her as well. If she ever decides to do something else, that's fine. But obviously it'd be great if she, ends up carrying on the name, this chocolate. Yeah.
So stores open in Toronto, right?
Yeah.
You doing mail order this year for the fall?
Yeah, no, of course. Yeah, we do. And you know what? We have actually really decided this year we don't really do any wholesale anymore whatsoever. Our shop is busy enough. And so it is, we have one store, one retail location, and that's it. We ship to you, of course. You can buy online, but you're not going to find our products anywhere else. Yeah. And I guess my wife and I, at one point we really decided we wanted to expand, maybe open another location, and we decided against it. This our setup serves us really well. So that I don't have to work those 60 hours that you were talking about.
I wasn't trying to talk you into it. I was just.
No, you can't. I'm sure there's a lot of colleagues of mine who have 2 or 3 stores that are doing great, but there's also a lot of people that are, I wish I'd never opened that second location.
I have a really good friend who has 2 stores now, but they had 4 at one point, and he explained that was probably the worst decision he'd ever made, because suddenly now, he's a guy that really liked to be in the kitchen. And suddenly he was running retail stores. And as he put it, if he wanted to work at the Gap, he would have gotten a job at the Gap.
Yeah.
He wanted to be able to touch customers and make food and do all the things that he loves to do. Mm-hmm. And running retail stores was not what he liked to do.
No, and I hear those stories as well. And you're right. You will lose time in the kitchen, and if you want to be a chef and want to be involved in the kitchen, then opening more stores is not maybe for you. But if you want to be in business and run, and you don't care where you are, whether you're driving the truck or whether you're doing all these HR responsibilities, then yeah, take on more stores. Absolutely. So for me, as a primarily a chef, I like my setup. We have 3 full-time chefs all year round, and then we double that even beyond for our seasons. And this is that's in way just what I can handle. I would not want to do it anywhere else. And I can handle this and be involved in the production, and I can be involved in the front, and I can be, for most of you who don't know, we have an open concept. So the chefs actually see the customers buying the products, and so there's this immediate feedback, and that's kind of what I love.
Right.
I want to be the chef and making this stuff, but I need to see this feedback from my customers. And a lot of times, as a chef, whether you're a chocolatier or you work in a restaurant or in a hotel, you don't get that feedback. You only hear it through the servers, and I think it's really important for me, and I hope my staff gets that as well, that they can actually see the fruits of their labor and how people get excited about this stuff.
So are you driving the new product? I mean, is that like one of your roles, or do you have people that are doing that for you? Like, are you coming up with the new flavors and the next best thing?
Yeah, so I mean, we're pretty conservative with our product line and so on.
Germans,
but but what we do is we make seasonal bonbons. We always have a line of seasonal bonbons that rotate and that are only available, let's say now for Thanksgiving, or then for Christmas, and then for Valentine's Day, and so on. And that's kind of what keeps us fresh and then excited, and then also which is then exciting for your other chefs, so let them come up with different flavors or different ideas and create a theme, and then evolve the flavors out of that, and so on. Having said that, it mostly falls on me. Yeah, absolutely. And that is one of the things that as a business owner and as a chef becomes very challenging, because you are creative, people who join our profession, new chocolatiers. This is kind of like their creative outlet, and we have so many freedoms where we can explore with flavors and colors now and all this stuff. But when you then say, okay, you want to be creative, well, create me a new product line for Christmas, I need a new product line for Valentine's Day, and I need one for Easter. What are you going to do for Mother's Day, Father's Day, Thanksgiving? And how about those different bonbons? Then it's a lot. It's a lot. There's not enough hours in the day sometimes,
Well, that's because you're not working 60 hours a week. If you start working 60 hours a week, there's enough hours in the day. That's like 10 hours a day, and you still get Sundays off.
Yeah, I should go back to that.
Yeah. Hey, so what's something, because we all have one, what's that one thing you've created and you were sure that everybody's going to love it, and people were in the kitchen were like, Daniel, what were you thinking? This is the worst thing ever. There's got to be one.
Oh, I'm sure there have been many, but my chefs usually know better than to tell me.
But your customers don't know better than to tell you. Your customers are like, ooh, we're not going to do that one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there are so many different things, that we try out, and then the problem, though, a lot of times is that because we are such a high turnover industry now, with everybody always wants something new, that sometimes you don't actually give the product enough time to find the customer, for the customer to find the product. So yeah, but you know, I did these roasted almonds, these caramelized almonds that I enveloped in ruby chocolate, and they stayed on the shelf. So
Yeah,
that was
well, it's funny.
my.
I'm here with a ruby pen,
Oh yeah.
but I haven't found the right thing with ruby yet. Like
Yeah.
it's there. I'm sure it's there. I just haven't come up with the right use yet for it.
You know, yeah. So I think where I went wrong is that, you know, the ruby chocolate is fairly sweet already, and then almonds are fairly sweet. The whole thing was just way too sweet. You know, I just thought it was going to be such a great color combo and all, and then we dusted it in silver, and it looked all fantastic. And yeah.
You know, by the way, what works great with the almonds? The Valrhona raspberry.
Yeah.
Just so you know, it's like a nice little acidic, a little sweet. It's really nice.
Yeah, yeah. That's it. It's a great chocolate. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So there's fantastic options out there now. You know, I don't know. You know, chocolate wise, obviously you make your own chocolate as well now. But for a chocolatier like mine, who I don't make any, I'm not a chocolate maker.
Right.
I always have to shop around what I want to use, and obviously right now we got the new whole fruit chocolate, and which is kind of interesting. You know, it has a very different profile. We're trying to just grapple what we're gonna do with that. You know, so.
We pan with it a lot.
Oh, you're using it already in the.
Yeah, I mean we do stuff. So we'll coat an almond in dark chocolate, and then we'll finish it in the raspberry.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah, yeah.
And c'est bon.
Yeah.
Okay, so take this question for what it's worth, because I ask everybody this question.
Yeah.
You take Georgia to the movies. You got the whole team with you. The whole Stubbe team is with you. You get your big tub of popcorn and your drink, and you got to pick a mass market confection out of the case. What do you buy?
So I tell you, in Germany there is this chocolate bar that I grew up on. It's called Hanuta. It's this cheap wafer. It's these 2 layers of wafer, and inside is this hazelnut cream. And it costs like $1. It's the cheapest stuff. And you know what? I still have friends and my mom bring me my Hanuta bars from Germany when they come and visit.
All right.
And
We'll take that one.
it's just one of those cheap candies that yeah, I love, you know. So, but again, you know, I mean, you guys talked about this already. It's like, you know, chocolate brings you back kind of to your childhood, you know. So it's one of those transformative things that, you know, it's this treat, and it does the same for me. You know, when I have that Hanuta bar, I remember running around, because when we had when I grew up, our pastry shop had candy bars as well, and that was my favorite candy bar. Yeah, definitely. And you know, you shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty about it as well. Which one are you? What's your favorite right now?
I've got a Kit Kat problem, and
Yeah.
straight
Oh yeah,
milk,
I remember that.
straight milk chocolate Kit Kat.
You do
And
have a problem.
the Canadian ones are better than they are in the States, and I haven't been able to get across the border in a year and a half. So, but I still, when I'm at the grocery store, I will still buy a Kit Kat bar and eat it before I get home. Like it's still like that.
But are you buying the original one, or do you buy any of the crazy flavors?
I'll buy some of the other ones from time to time, and I don't really care for them.
Yeah.
Like I really like
the original one, huh?
milk chocolate Kit Kat bars.
Yeah.
That's my gig, and the dark ones are good, but like the banana, I had like somebody gave me like cereal a couple weeks ago. No.
Yeah.
No. And you know what though? The coffee ones, they now make one that's like half coffee, half milk chocolate in the chocolate. That one's pretty good. The mocha is actually not too bad. But All right.
Yeah, it's
I'm all,
it's we work in a fantastic industry. It's like and it's a great time too. So there's so many different innovations and coming up. And
yeah.
it's fun. Yeah.
Yeah. And truth be told, so I showed you what's in the pan. That
Yeah.
pan are chocolate covered Cocoa Puffs.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And over here are chocolate covered hazelnuts.
Yeah.
I'll eat the chocolate covered Cocoa Puffs first. I roasted those hazelnuts myself. They're,
Yeah.
they're Turkish hazelnuts that I roasted myself and then panned within like 2 days of roasting, and I'll eat the chocolate covered Cocoa Puffs. I have no,
Yeah.
but I can appreciate the chocolate covered hazelnuts. I just don't always want them.
Yeah. No, exactly. And mind you, I have to say, like, when I think we make a good product and so on, and we enjoy our own products all the time. We know what we like, and sometimes we just want something else. So,
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. So Daniel, I'm going to let you get back to your 60-hour work week.
Talk to me next month.
I know.
So, yeah.
And one of these days I'm going to be able to get across the border and I'm going to stop by.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel so bad. I really wanted to join you guys for one of the workshops. I know one of my chefs. She already went and right when you opened up, I think.
Yeah.
She saw what's his name, Jérôme Landry.
Yeah, we've got some. I'll tell you what. Next year, I was on Zoom yesterday. We got some good people, but I can't announce it officially yet. But
yeah.
Once the border opens and everything, come on down.
Yeah, I want to.
Or come on down and spend the day with us. We can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah, I have not actually seen the new setup. So
pretty nice.
So our Beth went, and she was blown away by your new setup there. So look forward to that.
I'm pretty spoiled.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right, my friend.
Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, take
Bye.
care.